Hello and welcome to the Time for AI podcast, the podcast that brings you the best AI conference speakers and allows them 5 minutes to sum up their presentation. My name is Peter and I'll be your host today, as I've been in the previous episodes. By the way, go and check out the previous episodes where we talked about AI agents or large language model agents and AI in marketing. I'm sure those episodes are going to be interesting to you. If you like this podcast, just go and give it a review in wherever you listen to these podcasts. If you're interested into more about AI, SEOS.si is my webpage, and this podcast is hosted at timeforai.show. In today's episode, we have a wonderful guest coming all the way from Switzerland, Fatima Soomro. Hello and welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Peter. Thank you for inviting me.
How are you doing today? How is the winter that isn't really winterish treating you? How it's treating you?
Yeah, thank you. The winter isn't really winter indeed, and we will not be able to ski this weekend. So yeah, it's like that.
Our ski slopes near me have like 10 degrees right now instead of the minus degrees that they should be having. So it seems that we all have the same problems. Fatima, you work as a data engineering and analyst at Argusa. Can you tell me a bit more about your company and what do you do there?
All right. So yeah, I work at Argusa. We are a consulting company in Switzerland, and our specialization is the modern analytics stack, and also the two supporting functions that go with it, which are data governance and strategy and data literacy. And in my role, I have a double focus. I have one focus of technical implementation, so I go and implement projects with my clients, and then the other part of my role is actually supporting and supervising other consultants who are doing implementing projects. So it gives me a front row seat to both aspects of the equation, technical implementation, and then the organizational and human factors that, in my opinion, are the key to make a technical project successful.
You actually, as an education, you are a particle physicist. How did you come from that job description into this one?
Yes, indeed, I have a PhD in particle physics, and I worked for 7 years as a particle physicist. It consists of actually mostly collecting data and analyzing it. So the transition was not, it was not obvious, but looking back, it was also not unnatural, let's say.
All right, excellent. I've invited you to this podcast because you had a presentation at the Data Science Conference, the DSC Europe. How was the conference?
So, in my opinion, it's a very good conference. They have a very interesting and pertinent lineup of speakers. I really liked the keynote about the 7 sins of AI, and I recommend you to look at it if you have not already. Yeah, it's a very nice conference, and it gives you really a feeling of what's going on in data and tech right now.
Your presentation title was a question that everyone keeps asking. Will a large language model replace me? With the subtitle, A Systematic Study of GenAI's Impact on Data Jobs. Here are your 5 minutes. Tell me what the presentation was about.
So my presentation came from a reflection that I started having already in 2023. Everyone kept talking about how GenAI and LLMs are going to just replace almost every job that I could think of. And I had not actually seen a systematic explanation of exactly which functions and which tasks is it set to replace or augment. So therefore, at Argusa, we started a systematic study. We had an intern interview all of our consultants on all of their projects and try to understand exactly what is the composition of their workday. What do they do? What kind of task it is, what kind of tool they are using, and what do they think is the potential of this task benefiting from some kind of GenAI. So the findings are somehow counterintuitive, but when you think about them a bit deeply, they were also obvious. So some key findings were that as I said, we are specialized in the modern analytics stack. So we provide people with analytics assets to take decisions, which is kind of a front-end job. But most of our time is spent on data engineering, back-end tasks. This is very well known in fields like machine learning and data science, that you spend 80% of your time prepping data. But no one had actually shown me a number like this for analytics tasks. But this seems to hold true for us as well. The other findings we had was that people found that GenAI would enhance a lot the capability in tasks that they consider tedious, which is actually comforting to know, because tasks like documentation, where a co-pilot could actually read the code and keep the documentation up to date, would be a huge, huge game changer for these kinds of tasks. And other things that were a bit surprising were project management. We would think that here you kind of talk about only people, but actually GenAI could enhance our capabilities because it is able to summarize long meetings, summarize diverse documents in different places, and even craft uh, messages that are pertinent, because project management is also stakeholder management and communication. So this is where our consultants felt that they could be really enhanced by AI. And on topics where there was less potential from AI, let's say, were things like actually building analytics from a graphical user interface kind of tools, where you have to drag and drop, because GenAI is extremely good at writing code with you, but not very good at actually dragging dropping things for you at the moment. And another place where they thought it was not very relevant was architectural tasks, where it requires you to know the culture, the present architecture, and ecosystem of tools that a company has and their needs. So these are the kind of tasks where people thought it was not very interesting to use GenAI, but then they also thought that these tasks were interesting and not tedious. So it actually makes me hopeful that we will be doing fewer tedious tasks and more high value generating tasks. And then they cited like a general difficulty in implementing GenAI brute force in their workflow was the variability. The same company may not be using the same tool in the same way in different departments. They may not name the same thing in the same way in different teams. So just the absence of procedures that could be well defined and written down makes it difficult to say that tomorrow we're going to just launch an AI and it's going to make dashboards for us. So yeah, this was the major conclusions of the study.
All right, excellent. It seems that the idea of we should get AI to do the laundry and wash the dishes, but allow us to do paintings and music. It's still something that this is how people see the usage of AI, right? As you mentioned, doing all of the tedious tasks for us and allow us to do the creative tasks. On the other hand, me being a bit of more of a Gen AI extremist, it seems that sometimes the answer that we get from people thinking about their jobs and how AI can replace them come from not really believing what the AI is already capable or what it can be capable very soon, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you see this?
Yes, you are right. This is actually already a pushback I feel from the more younger members of our team, and I think it is a valid position. And my point of view there is that at least today we are seeing a lot of products or spin-off that are basically based on the same technology, and they have been created from the point of view of I have an idea and I'm going to help you do this in a very smart way and in a very quick way. What is lacking is thinking about the integration of this in the workflow of a company that has 60,000 employees in 4 continents, and they have to have things like compliance and fairness and the demonstrability of how they made their decisions and so on and so forth. So I think what is lacking is this kind of thinking in the product development of AI so far. And this is why I'm personally a huge fan of, and I think that this is something I will take off, is co-pilots that are integrated, because they solve two problems. One is the integration, so they are already integrated in the tool that you are using. So there's almost no change
Mm.
for the user. And the other one is security and privacy. If the company has already bought this tool, they already have agreements, then they are much more likely to accept also their AI assistant than some other random company with their AI assistant. So I think this is where I would say, not that AI is not capable, but it is capable in pockets and not in an integrated way over the workflow
I like
yet.
what you're mentioning, integrated copilots, right? I'm a big fan of the Microsoft Copilot. They have just launched an update a couple of days ago where you can already use for a while the Copilot in PowerPoint, Excel, Word, Outlook, and etc. But now you can create your own versions, train them on your own data, and then use them in PowerPoint, in Excel, in Word, right? This,
Mhm.
it seems for me that, and I'm really surprised that not a lot of people are talking about Copilot, because as you said, it's a workflow that people are already used, and it's much easier to get your employees to do something where you can do it directly in Word than to copy paste something from Word into a different tool and then copy paste it back. So it seems that at least Microsoft is really good at that, but no one really talks about it.
Yes, you're right. I think that this is the same effect that we always have in these kinds of things where there's this hype cycle. And I think that right now we are going through the hype cycle, and we
Mm.
have not reached a point where we get disappointed and then go to the plateau of whatever satisfaction with the technology. You're right. Nobody is talking about it because there are so many shiny things out there popping
Mm.
up every 2 days that we just don't have the time to look at actually how am I going to integrate this.
On shiny new things. DeepSeek is the shiny new thing that everyone talks about. I think that creating a podcast episode currently not talking about that would be not talking about shiny new things. Is it changing everything? Is it going to change things, or is it just overhyped Chinese propaganda?
I am a very conservative person, so I will say that I will reserve my comments,
Mhm.
because we have seen this kind of stuff before. um, when, let's say, when OpenAI first put the interface to user to general use, we would not imagine that we could be paying $200 for this thing. You know,
Mm. Mm.
so it's also this idea of catch the customer and then tell them the price.
Right.
So I remain deeply skeptical of these kinds of claims, and I will wait 6 months to say who wins.
Okay, okay, excellent. The question that I pose to everyone at the end of the podcast is, what is your favorite, not new tool, but what is your current current thing that you play with in AI? What is your current thing that you really like and enjoy in AI? Do you have something like that?
Yes, I actually use a lot Grammarly.
Hmm.
I like the fact that it is integrated. But when I'm also not working, so it's outside of work context, I like actually playing a game with OpenAI where I ask I ask it to actually challenge my point of view. And it is interesting somehow. Sometimes the challenges that it poses to your arguments.
Right, right.
So I find it extremely useful and just amusing.
I'm seeing Grammarly as an AI tool that people are suggesting that you should be looking at, but I know Grammarly as the grammar collection tool.
Mm.
Does it have a new features, or why is everyone talking about it?
So if yeah, I don't want to advertise because I'm not paid by them, but the point is, it is integrated as in if you have the tool and you pay for it, it becomes integrated as in you open any place where you could edit a Word text document, and then it will pop up, and you can tell it, for example, write an article about Sophie, who is working in IT department. And it writes you something. You can say make it more professional. You can say make it funny. You open your email editor and you say write an article to my boss justifying sorry, not an article, an email to my boss asking for a pay raise. And it's going to give you a nice justification and arguments, and you can tweak the style of it. And again, the integration, that's what
That's
kills
the
it.
thing.
It's in my email editor. I don't need to get out, copy to OpenAI, copy it back, where it also copies, the comments from from OpenAI. Here is a new version, and the margin of error of actually sending that is huge. So it's the integration for me that yeah.
Okay, I have to go and check this out. I didn't know that. Fatima, if people want to talk to you about AI and data engineering, where can they find you?
Well, they can find me on LinkedIn. It's Fatima Soomro, the username.
Okay, we'll link to you and in the show notes. We'll also add your presentation in the show notes so that people, if they want to, are interested, can go and check a bit more about it. Thank you very much for being a guest on the podcast, and have a great day.
Thank you for the conversation, Peter. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.